Hello guys. I decided that uploading a video once a week when telling a story would be too far apart. So for my story videos, I'm going to upload them every other day or maybe every 2 to 3 days. Um, so I'm going to start where I left off, and I I left off saying about how my dad died, and so I was 12 years old, and that was 2010. So then after that, I'm gonna talk about like my attitude and behavior and what I was doing. When I was 12, I was just hanging out with my friends. I didn't like to be home. I didn't like to sit at the house. I didn't like to be bored. I would walk from school. I would just be at my friend's house all the time. And I know that around 12 years old, like, I was drinking. Not a lot. I think I started smoking a little bit. Maybe I was 12 or 13. And after my dad died, my attitude at home changed, my behavior changed. I was always like a brat, and I was always like, didn't want to listen to my mom, and I didn't want to be told what to do. Like I said, I didn't like to sit home. So then when my dad died, I just didn't listen to anything. I didn't care about anything. I would not go home when I was supposed to go home. I would lie about where I was to my mother. And yeah, so I was going to school, and shortly after my dad passed, my grandfather, who we lived with, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. And so I started going home after school more. My mom would work full time. She worked full time, and she wasn't able to be there for my grandfather. His condition escalated very quickly. He went downhill very quickly. So I would go home from school, and I would have to make sure he ate. I would ask him if he took his medicine. I would cook him food if he didn't eat. Sometimes he didn't know who I was. He knew who I was. He knew that I was somebody that he knew, but he would call me my mother's name sometimes. And it just really hurt me seeing him like this. He was always the strong, like, determined, hard-working person, and so I had to take care of him. And sometimes I would come home. Well, I remember one time I came home, and he liked to sit on the front porch. Well, I guess his chair fell. He fell off the front porch while sitting in his chair, and I was walking home from the bus stop, and his chair was on top of him, and nobody helped him. The neighbors didn't help him. Maybe they didn't see. I don't know, but we lived, like I said, on a cul-de-sac. So I had to pick the chair up off of him. He was okay. He was fine. He had a cut, a big gash on his arm. My mom had to come home and bandage it up and clean it up. And that's when we just knew that, like, a couple incidents more after that, we knew that it wasn't safe for him to be home alone anymore. And so we had to put him in a nursing home. I think that he had a surgery or something too along with this. I don't really remember. I just know he went to a nursing home because his condition escalated so quickly and rapidly. And then he was in the nursing home for a while, and he was getting better. He was showing improvement, taking his medicine, his dementia medicine, on time, because it's not something that goes away. obviously. But he was taking it on time. He wasn't having any more like episodes, really. And I remember we got him a pair of shoes for Christmas while he was in the nursing home, because that's all he wanted was a pair of shoes. He just wanted a new pair of shoes, so we got him a new pair of shoes. Well, shortly after Christmas, I remembered that they said he had to be moved to hospice, and when you go to hospice, it's usually to be in comfort to pass away. Well, that's what it is, I think. Yeah. So, that was shocking to us because we thought he was improving. Well, I just remember going to visit him at hospice like almost every single day after school, or every other day when my mom got off work, and he wasn't very responsive. His mouth, the last time we saw him, his mouth was so dry that they had to get cotton swabs and they had to wet them just to keep his mouth moist, wet, because he couldn't really drink or eat, or didn't want to. He wasn't responsive. I remember standing around him, me, my mother, and my sister, and we just knew it was bad. And so we all held his hand and we said, if you can hear us, or if you know we're here, like, we love you. And he squeezed our hands, and so we went home, and we kind of knew later that night. It was late in the night. I don't really know what time, maybe like 12, 1, 2. They called us and they told us that he had passed away. And this was in 2012. I was 14, so 2 years after my dad had passed. And it really affected me because both the important men in my life are now gone. And that one, it affected me a lot. Like I said, I stopped going home after school. I just didn't care. I didn't have a reason to go home now. I wasn't going to see him. I wasn't taking care of him anymore. So I would just be out running around, doing whatever I wanted to do. I think with all the deaths in my life, I was angry. I was angry at the world. I didn't know who to take it out on, so I took it out on my mother. Me and my mom, my attitude just went to shit, and I was rude to her. I was mean to her. I didn't listen, to the point of kicking, yelling, screaming, breaking things, throwing things, hitting her, saying horrible things to her. So around like these times, I was drinking a lot. I was being at older boys' house when I was 14, drinking, smoking. I remember I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, which I don't remember anything correctly a lot, because I just blocked out my past, really. Like, I just don't think about it or really talk about it. So I took a Klonopin for the first time. I was at this older boy's house, and we were drinking, and there was a guy my age there, and I was dating him, and so he offered me a Klonopin. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what nerve pills were, what anything did to you. I just knew heroin killed you. That's all I knew. So I took it. Then I took another one right away because it didn't work. In my brain, I didn't feel anything. It didn't work. Obviously, it doesn't work like that. It takes a while. So I took about 3, and I remember I was drunk too, so I really don't remember. I just remember not feeling anything, just feeling happy, and like I didn't care about anything. And so that was my first time I think ever taking a pill. And I remember I fell off of handlebars on a bike and I didn't even feel it. I didn't even feel it. I didn't even budge. It didn't bother me. It didn't hurt. And I didn't realize then that I would have a problem. I thought I was just having fun. I thought I was just doing what normal teenagers do. So I still smoked and I drank and whatever, and I remember, like, the first bad thing that I ever did, and this wasn't for drugs, this was for attention. I wanted love. I wanted people to like me. So I was with the same guy, dating him, that gave me the pill, and I stole my mother's gun for him. It was a really old gun. It was my grandpa's. It didn't even probably work. Like, it wasn't like a new handgun or anything. And I got caught. For some reason, my mom knew. She knew that day. I don't know how, because it was hidden like somewhere that she never looked, because it wasn't used. It wasn't like, it was an old, like, antique kind of, not antique, but old. And she just knew. So I get caught. I get it back. She involves the police. I am very, very, very lucky I didn't get a criminal charge. I could have but I did get, like, during all this, my mother filed unruly charges on me. So around, like, it was around homecoming and stuff, I was on house arrest. I couldn't go. So I remember that. And then, so then, like, I'm still not listening, whatever. I'm still living at home. Obviously, I'm 14. So, like, when I was 15, I met this guy. I'm not going to say any names on my channel except, like, my boyfriend when I talk about him now, because he doesn't care, and my dad, he's deceased. So I'm going to call him D. And I hung out with him, and I remember we would smoke, we would drink, we would just go to people's houses. And I remember one time that he had a pill. He told me, I still don't know to this day if any of this, like, is what's true about this story. And I'm going to claim that a lot when I talk, because I don't want to put misinformation out, but I also remember certain things. So he told me that this pill was a Percocet, I think that's what he told me it was. Well, so I did it, and it ended up being a Suboxone, is what he told me after. And so I didn't know what it was. It kind of made me sick, but I felt something. I didn't feel like myself, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to feel like myself. I didn't want to feel anything. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to feel. So I did it, and then I remember that we dated for 1.5 years, or about a year, and I remember staying at his house, and we did heroin for like a week straight. That's the first time I did heroin, and I didn't really know how addictive it was. We only did a little bit. I only snorted it, obviously. I was 15. And so we did it for like a week straight, and then I just stopped. We just stopped. We got a little bit sick, I do remember, but I didn't know, like, what being dope sick was. I didn't know. Like, I knew it just made me feel bad, and I thought it was just because I was tired, or that Like, I kind of knew, but I really didn't. So I just stopped for a week, or after a week, and I didn't do heroin again. I didn't touch it for a long time, and then Hey guys, so I realized that the video I recorded to put up was too long, so I cut it at an abrupt stop. So the next video will be where the part after I cut it, and I just wanted to let you guys know that. So I'll be wearing the same thing, and thank you for watching.